Hi guys, a man called Geoff Norcott appeared on the LBC show with Ian Dale and other guests. Now, Geoff described himself as a Brexiteer. He didn't explain why he voted for Brexit, but he seems to be calling for greater cooperation between both the UK and EU member states. He talks here about the Eurozone, which was a strange thing to mention, but he suggested that Britain and European Union countries should work together and stop what he called macho posturing. Did he just call for the UK to, I don't know, make peace over Brexit? Have a listen to this.
I'd say, one thing, I was never an ideological Brexiteer. It sounds semantic, but I think there's a difference. There are people that voted leave and there are people whom it was a project for most of their life. One of the reasons possibly that the person is asking this question is that we're discussing closer relationships. I don't think that things should necessarily be fundamentally changed without, at the very least, a general election. But the idea of greater cooperation at a time when the Eurozone is likely to be in recession next year, I know some of the European economies will escape it like France, but Germany will be in recession. This era,
they're all doing better than us.
They're all doing better. No, I just acknowledge
we're
that.
at bottom of the pile with the
but
G7
when did I say they weren't? I said the Eurozone will be in recession. I said, and some of the major economies will be doing better than us, but Germany will be in recession. And yeah, we will be underperforming against the German economy. But I do think that, given the circumstances...
Not next year, won't they? They're scheduled to have a bigger recession than us.
We all need to work a bit closer. And I think the era of both the UK and the EU governments indulging in this macho posturing needs to come to an end.
Right. Okay, now at the beginning I thought Geoff was going to say something different, but at the end he says here that there needs to be greater cooperation. And I think most people would welcome that. The people who are against greater cooperation are the Brexiteers. They're the ones who want to build a figurative wall between Britain and the EU. They're the ones who, in some cases, want to turn Britain into a North Korea of Europe. So when it comes to greater cooperation, I think, when it helps both sides, they want to do that. Now, when he talks here about a recession, I'm not sure what he means. I'd love to speak to Geoff about this. I'd love to understand why he voted for Brexit as well. If he hears this, if he's listening to this, he'd be welcome to come on our Sunday Roast show and talk about it. It'd be great to have him on. But when you talk about posturing, what do you mean? Because the only posturing I've heard is from the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg, Mark Francois, John Redwood, and even members, of the cabinet recently were posturing when it came to Brexit. We had Boris Johnson constantly posturing. We had Liz Truss posturing to a certain extent. Rishi Sunak probably a bit less, but he's still fresh. What do you mean by posturing? Because if we look on the other side, what posturing has come from the EU? If you look at the Vice President of the European Commission, Maroš Šefčovič, what has he said? I wouldn't call it posturing. He's saying, look, we signed up to an agreement. The UK signed up to an agreement. The UK is not respecting its side of the bargain. And we'd like them to do that. Now, I wouldn't call that posturing. If you sign up to something and you attempt to break it, and the UK has said it's willing to break international law, of course in a limited and specific way. If it said it's willing to do that, and the EU said, please don't do that, who is posturing? Now, maybe Brexiteers think when the EU says you need to respect the rules, that's posturing. I don't think so. And I think most reasonable people would say that's not posturing. But it's also important to remember there's a difference between France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, whatever, and the EU. Sometimes I think Brexiteers tend to look at France and they have a lot of hatred towards the French for some reason, but they try to tie France and the EU together when they're not the same thing. So the French president may make a snide remark about the Prime Minister, but that's not the EU. And it's not in any professional or political capacity either. It's generally a personal opinion. But it's definitely not representative of the EU. If you want to hear something, you'd have to come from Ursula von der Leyen. It would have to be the Vice President otherwise. Or some spokesperson. But I've never heard any snide remarks or any posturing from the European Union. If somebody has an example, please do point it out. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.